Okay, so what I have here are my mold making equipment. I've got my silicone, catalyst, the bucket in which I'm going to mix, my gram scale, my nylon gloves, latex gloves, respirator, and my 3 molds. The first thing I did was calculate the volume for each mold, and then I took which turned out to be about 2 3/4 cups, took a measuring cup and filled this with water so I would know what volume of mold I would eventually need. And it's this line on the inside that you probably can't see. It's right about there. But because the mold is mixed by weight, I can't rely on that volume measurement. So I'm going to take my scale, put my respirator on, and I'm going to first tear out the bucket so that I'm not accounting for that bucket weight, which turns out to be 0 ounces anyway. Let's just double check. It wasn't. Hold on. Alright, the bucket is 1.3 ounces, so we'll tear that. Now we're back to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill to that line with the, well, first I'm going to put my gloves on. And we'll just fill to that line with my silicone. Now I've already sprayed each mold with Teflon, so that by the time I'm ready to pour, that Teflon will have dried, and it'll make that mold easier to release. I'm going to stand up for this. Alright. Now, the silicone itself is very viscous, so there is some inexactitude involved here, but it's okay, because once I add the catalyst, it'll loosen up a little bit. This is going to take a while, even with me forcing it out. That's right. Come on, baby. Okay. Keep going. Nope, keep going. Fortunately, I have a gallon of this stuff, so 2 3/4 cups is really nothing. It's barely over a quarter of the entire container. Put some air back in there. Okay. And resume. Alright, that's almost done. Alright, that's just about up to the line. Now I'm going to stymie that. Now on its own, this catalyst, or this silicone will stay at consistency. It'll stay at consistency, so this can sit for a while. I don't have to worry about it going anywhere. And I can see by the scale that we are at 1 pound, 10.9 ounces. So let's write that down. 1 pound and 10.9. So that's 26.9 ounces. So I need 2.7 ounces of hardener catalyst because the mix ratio is 10:1. Alright. Let me take a brief picture of this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that tear button again to bring it down to 0. And we're going to start adding the cat. But first, you know what, I'm going to just need to stir rod real quick. Ow, it's really hot. Okay. I like using metal more than I like using dowel rods just because that dowel rod is porous. So I need 2.7 ounces of this. So I can just pretty much go nuts here. Obviously, the larger the volume, the better off you're going to be with the mix ratio. Alright, and that's 2.7. Catalyst is a good way to estimate how much mold I have left. I have more than a half that container, which is plenty for the last part of this. So this needs to be mixed very slowly, because as you introduce air into the mixture, those air bubbles show up when you're molding, and air is the enemy. Air and moisture are the enemy to mold making. You produce air bubbles, which you definitely don't want. Hot life is about 45 minutes, which I don't intend to spend the entire time mixing, of course. So I've got a reasonable amount of time in which to get this all homogenized. I don't like doing that because when you stretch it and pull it, it's the same problem. You're going to introduce air into that mixture. And you know, it's tempting to mix it vigorously, but the more vigorous, the more air gets into the solution, into the mix. Fortunately, air bubbles rise out of this fairly well, given enough vibration. So once these are poured, I'll be able to do that. Yeah, right now I'm just spinning the mold inside the catalyst. So I do have to kind of lift and knead just to get that stuff in there. I don't like doing that, as I said, because it introduces too much air into the mix. But with this volume, I think it's permissible. There it on the edges. Another problem with mixing in a non-clear container is that you can't see the sides, and the sides are they're the big enemy when it comes to this stuff. The sides trap a lot of that unmixed silicone, which then can get into your product and cause problems in the mold making. This would probably be better if I had a broad, flat stirrer instead of this very thin piece of metal rod, which is why I'm considering going against what I just said and grabbing a dowel rod and taking 3 1/4 dowel, but I don't think I'm really going to need it because it's starting to blend. Now this stuff's curing already. But like I said, I've got 45 minutes before this is a useless batch, so I really don't think that that's going to happen. There we go. It's really starting to come together now. Like I said, it is so tempting to just stir the hell out of this, but you can't. You have to exercise a little bit of patience. See what I just did? That's bad. I lifted and spun around at the same time, so it brought a ribbon on top, which I don't doubt introduce too much air into this. Okay, we're starting to get some nice consistency. Bring it back the other way. Fortunately, catalyst is color-coded, obviously, so you know when you've got a homogeneous mixture. This would be very difficult if it weren't. Let us check one thing. Okay. That's good. See, I wish I hadn't done that, because now I'm going to have to ignore what I said earlier, because this is just too thin. That's what it is. If you're curious about what I was just doing, I was, wait. That's so stupid. I got, no, that's done. I was sanding this so that I wouldn't get wood shavings into this, because that would also be a disaster. Okay, I just got a big air, yeah. Air bubbles are starting to form in there. I have to be careful at this stage because now it's very easy, because the consistency has changed, to introduce air into this mixture. Just trying to get what's on the sides. Usually it's wise to actually mix twice in one container and then in the other, but I'm feeling bold, so I'm going to forego that. Okay, this actually looks pretty good. Could be a little better. There's a lot of air in there. Okay, this looks pretty well homogenized. Now with the solution this viscous, I'm going to have problems pouring into these little tight spaces because I don't want to get any mold. Because these are two part molds. This is a one part mold, so I can just pour onto that and be done with it. But these I have to fill to a certain level so that I can split the mold in half and take the part out when I'm done. That one doesn't need to do it because it'll be flipped on its tail, on its back. Okay. I'm going to start with the easy one. So this one here. So now I can always come back and add more on the top. I don't need to go all the way at the top. So if it turns out that I need more mold after I do the other two, that's fine. One thing. I was really going to throw this away, but it turns out it's actually very good for doing this. And then also getting down into that. So there's that. Alright, this can move off to the side from there. I'm probably going to add more on top of that. This one's going to be a little bit tighter. So I want to get as thin a screen as possible. There's no rush. This can be a very agonizing process. It's difficult to be patient when you really just want to fill the whole cavity. But it's necessary because you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to get any gaps in there. You want it to be nice and uniform. And the slower you pour, the fewer air bubbles get inside. Like, I poured that hat mold pretty fast, which is why there are probably going to be a considerable amount of air bubbles inside. But that's okay. And I coated the inside, like I said, I coated the inside with Teflon, so whatever does stick to the top of the part will, it won't be there for too much. So now I'm spilling a little bit here. Yeah, with a small cavity like this, you're going to expect a little bit of messiness. It's just a necessary hazard, but with adequate coating of Teflon, that can all be cut and thrown away. And because this has to be molded up to a fairly precise height, there can't be too much room for error. We are very close to that height. That's going to be too much. Slow it down. That should be about right. I'm going to let that settle a little bit. I can see that this level is higher than this level, but like I said, that's okay. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there are a lot of air bubbles coming from the surface there. That was a very fast pour, which is something you want to avoid. This will, we'll have to get that reset. In fact, I'm probably just making it worse by doing that. I'll have to sand that out, I think. So let's take paper there. Now this, I'm going to try and pour right down the side. Oh, it's way too much. In fact, I can even spin this as I go. Now, because there's this big, I should have actually molded this upside down, but there was really no way for me to do that. But there's a lot of space into which air can get trapped when I can't see what's going on. So I'm going to go in with a rod and mix it up as much as I can. What I really don't want to do is fill the little hole. I want to, shit. I'm getting very, very close to doing that. I can be careful. Look, I should have found a way to plug it. Okay. I feel comfortable with these again. Slowly. Slowly. That's not slow. Okay, each time this stuff folds over itself, you're going to trap a little bit of air. And that could be a problem. But, like I said, there's a way around that after you finish pouring. I can also increase the gravity, not increase the gravity, but increase the potential energy of the mold by pouring from a slightly higher height, but you lose control that way. Which is why, see, now I've actually gone and buried the whole thing, so I have to excavate and It might even be best to just pour the whole goddamn thing now and then cut instead, but I have no way of knowing where the cut line would be. But I can guess now, and then, well, instead of guessing how. I know that it's going to be that. So you know what? I'm going to go for it, and then after I cut, or after I, yeah, I'm just going to let it fall. That seemed like the best option. Admittedly, with a mold this narrow, it would have been extremely difficult to do what I was going to do, which is alright. That's just like a plop on top there. I can got it in there. Oh, you know what was especially smart of me is if I thought to roll that hole right now. I get the feeling that some of this is unmixed, but I can't be certain. Okay. Also, with a long mold like this, there's a lot more, it takes a lot more time for that air to rise. Alright, that looks perfect. I'm not even going to touch that. Instead of, well, you know what, no, I better. Because I'm not certain where the end of the hat is, and it's better to be certain than to be not certain. So right on top. I'll let that smooth out. And there's one more thing that I want to do, which is something I should have prepared for actually. I need to make a silicone cast for this. So I'm going to spray this with Teflon, which is, I'm going to spray it with this junk here, which will make the surface smooth, let that evaporate, and then put whatever remaining mold is left on top. There's a lot of solvents in this Teflon spray, so I have to be absolutely certain that all that stuff has evaporated before I pour mold on it. And you know why? It's because as it evaporates, air is going to rise. So I'm going to grab my hanger, and I'm just going to start smacking the shit out of this stuff. I did learn an interesting technique, which involves which involves my Dremel actually. Now this stuff is fairly boring. I don't think there's any reason to show this, but that's what I do. Pretty low mess for that volume of mold. Actually, I'm pretty pleased.